Hey, this is Mike. How are you?
How you doing, Mike, in New York?
Yes. How you doing today?
The big
Good.
cheese.
It's a pleasure to talk with you. Being such a fan of the band for so many decades, I was happy when you put it together again about 7, 8 years ago. Now it seems like all the fruit of that labor is paying off for new music.
Yeah, well, I think we're happy to be back. And, you know, it's weird. It's like we didn't do anything for years except for play a few shows here and there. And now that we're back in the swing of things, it's almost as if we never stopped. It's weird.
Yeah, and you can tell that by the music. When I listen to the new record, The Dark Parade, it sort of takes me back to the very beginning, back to the old days, but yet there's something new about it. There's something that says this is where the band would have been at today if they were still putting out music regularly, over the last 2 or 3 decades.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate you saying that.
Was there a conscious effort to try to reach back to, when the band kind of first started out, or was it just, how everybody was feeling when they were writing at the time?
Mordred is not very conscious. It's usually, we just want to make people thrash. And the way it ended up was that we ended up, listening to the music that was like-minded to us, at the end of the 80s. So we added a DJ because all that underground rap stuff was super anti-establishment. And so we, started incorporating that and found that, it's a great element to have if you, like, for example, create a brutal riff or a brutal arrangement for a song, or crushing whatever your estimation is of heavy. It's easy to get if that cinematically in your head. It's easy to get imagery out of a DJ who can just call up soundscapes that take you there faster.
Very true.
Hopefully.
Yeah, you're talking about a DJ. When the band started in the mid-'80s, you had hair metal on one hour, you had, the thrash on the other side, and you guys probably started like most bands doing covers of Sabbath and Iron Maiden and bands like that. And, you come from an area where, Testament and Exodus were like, ruling the roost back then, and I guess people expected you to follow suit. When did it come time for you to say, you know what, we're not going to do what everybody else is doing, we're going to do something completely different? Because I felt that you guys were far and ahead of anybody else at the time and mixing different styles of music, with the DJ, no matter what it was. You guys were the first to do it, and a lot of bands followed and kind of got the credit for it. When did you guys say, we're not going to, be the next Exodus, we're not going to be the next Testament or Slayer or Metallica, we're going to, go off in a whole different direction?
Yeah, that's what you just said is exactly it. Those jobs are taken. Exodus exists. They're bad as fuck. You can't be Exodus. So that was exactly our approach. In addition to the logistics of Mordred, we had, from the time when we started and to the time we got signed and ready to record our first record, we had so many lineup changes and so many different influences internally forming within the band that we sort of organically just came up with what we had because of lineup changes and because we wanted to stand apart. We've always, even in our earliest iteration, we sort of stood apart. We had a weird singer guy who was, a great friend of ours, Steve Skates, who used to sing for the band, before Scott. He was a proto black metal guy, like, all the time. He'd go to the beach dressed as a barbarian. He was the real deal. But he left the band, so then we needed to get a new singer. So that changed our sound. And then we got Scott, and then we got different guitarists. I'm the only one from the original lineup who's still playing.
That's true. I mean, when you first put this all together with this new lineup now, when you're creating a sound with the DJ and sounds and samples, the rap influences there, and back then when you told people like, I'm a metal band, but yet I'm heavily influenced by rap, we're going to mix that together, they didn't get it. But I think rap and metal had more in common than any other two musics together.
I think that early underground anti-establishment rap definitely did, and I think Ice-T saw that. I mean, he body count is super heavy. It was a time when if you were young and you had a lot of energy, you go to a thrash show, or you might go to a crazy hip hop show. It's all about just getting that energy out.
Yeah, true. Did you realize that you were writing music that maybe didn't have an audience at the time, that you were going to have to create one for yourselves?
Well, by the time we recorded our first record, our audience, we did have an audience from our first iteration, and then the the in between from actually recording the record, we had a growing audience. People liked what we did, and when we didn't have a DJ full time in the band during that period, we were building our audience as a Mordred before it was recorded. And then when we by the time we recorded our first record, we added Super Freak, which was a song I used to play with our drummer. If Dating White, our guitarist, would break a string, I would just fill the time with playing Super Freak, and that became a song that we put on the first record. People liked it. It had a different reaction. And then we asked DJ Paz to come in and record it on the demo, to put in some scratch sounds to, validate it a little more. The Super Freak joke song. And then, once we saw what Paz can do, and, we basically put together another song with him, Every Day's a Holiday, in the studio. And, we were off and running with this new sound, I guess.
Yeah, Fool's Game was such a great debut back in '89. State of Mind, Spectacle of Fear, The Artist, Shatter, so many killer songs on that record. And it was kind of the closing of that decade, and things started to change a few years later. Within 2 or 3 years, the whole landscape of music basically started to change. But in this life, in '91, I mean, to me, do you feel like that's the pinnacle record for Mordred, that sound that kind of defined who the band was? Because I really think you came into your own during that record.
Absolutely. By then, Paz was fully integrated, but when we started doing tracks and developing songs for that, we were integrating Paz into basically all of our songs. So, that song put us on the map. It separated us definitively from the more traditional style, but it's still thrash positive. It was a record that people could still thrash to. People could still skateboard to downhill or on ramps. It was still high energy and an establishment.
True. A couple of years later, The Next Room, and that was kind of it for the band. Maybe a year or so later, I think was the last I heard of Mordred for a long time, until the reunion started happening. How'd you feel about that record? Different singer in the band. I think Kimball was singing in the band at that time. A little different sound, a little different vibe.
I love that record. It was of the time. When we recorded it, things were falling apart for Mordred. We lost our singer, and again, Mordred was faced with a major lineup change. The singer, once you have to change singers, who knows what's going to happen. But we found a guy who we all liked. We liked his lyrics and what he said. It was a departure, but we were used to we were used to experimentation and messing around with stuff that isn't self-identifying, and that's what we make as our identity. It's like an ever-changing thing, and I know that could be suicide marketing-wise, but that's just what we do.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, especially when you replace a singer in a band. I mean, because they all kind of do the defining sound of the group and what people, kind of recognize. And anytime you change one, it could go two ways. I mean, it can go like the AC/DC Iron Maiden way, or go in a different way. But I think because you guys were so flexible and like what your sound could be and would be, I don't think it really hurt you guys.
Yeah, we got a lot of positive feedback from that record. I don't think noise, although while we were recording it, they seemed really supportive. And when it came out, we were getting pretty good reviews. I've only really seen English language reviews, but I know there was a lot of stuff from Germany. I don't really know what was being said there, but what Carl, the head of Noise Records, told us was that there, was no, the pre-sale tickets for our tour weren't there. So he was going to pull the rug on our tour support, and that was the only thing we had to look forward to at that point after recording that record. And at that point, we were just like, we've been at this for a while. This guy is going to basically shelve us. let's just break up the band. And that's what we did.
When you make a decision like that, especially after over a dozen years playing, I mean, is it actually a relief that it's over, or is it just kind of hard to let go?
At that point, I'm only really speaking for myself. I had been in the band since 1984, and if we didn't have anything to look forward to, and if we're just going to be continually shelved by the record label, to me, we may as well just not exist.
Yeah.
We may as well just come back and either do our own projects individually, or whatever. We just need to get out of a contract. If we're just going to be shelved, and if that meant we couldn't play together as Mordred, at that point it just seemed like it was the best thing. And Gannon agreed. And I don't know if, like Dan and Jim, they just kind of went along with it. I learned later they were really bummed. But I mean, what could we do? I mean, we can't really. We just going to play to appease some guy in Germany who's, only in it for the money.
True. But it ended, but then 5 or 6 years later, a lot of the guys got back together. I think James was with you. I think Danny wasn't part of the first reunion, if I remember. It was Scott and I think Paws. But nothing came out of that recording-wise. Was it just meant for you guys to play live, or was it that the timing wasn't right to record new music back then?
Which one are you talking about?
The first reunion, I think it was in 2000, 2001, around then.
Yeah. A promoter got in touch with Scotty and said, "Hey, do you guys, is it possible for Mordred ever to play again?" And by then we had all smoothed things out, and we were, good friends. People had families, they had kids. Scott had a kid by then, and we were good friends. We were not going to let a band tear us apart. So he got in touch with all of us and logistically got together some practices with the different with a fill-in guitar. So Danny White had moved to Ohio or New York. I don't know where he was at that point, but he was out of state, so we got Chris to fill in as our guitarist, as one of our guitarists, Jim Sanguinetti, Gannon Hall, and yeah, it was we got together to play this. I guess it was a benefit party for the Hells Angels clubhouse in San Francisco. We played it at the Pound, and then after that show, we toyed with the idea of playing some more, and it didn't happen. Like I said, people had jobs and families. We couldn't really make practice happen if we weren't, fully committed. So it was just kind of a hobby. We knew we could emerge at any time with a couple days practice, but we just sort of left it at that. And it wasn't really until 2007 when another benefit came up for a friend of ours who had passed away. We played that, and for that we got together the original, an iteration of Mordred that was close to the early 1984 garage, lineup. Before we got Steve Skates, our original singer, Sven Soderlund on guitar, Mercenary, Slade Anderson played drums, or Eric Lannon played drums for Mordred. For that show, and Jim Sanguinetti played guitar, and we tore up a San Francisco festival that they had out here, and drew the biggest crowd that festival had seen since its start, apparently, and yeah, that was fun. It was we played the original versions of Spellbound and Severance Splice, really traditional thrash stuff. And then at the same time we got together an iteration of the signed Mordred, the Fool's Game Mordred, with Sven Soderlund playing guitar, filling in for Danny White. We played the Hate Street Fair, 2007, and people recorded it. It got out, and I guess people were talking about it in terms of is this band back together? I guess people thought we were back together, but it was really just if we could make practices happen and we can get away from jobs and family and stuff to do it, we could perhaps put a show on or something. It really wasn't until 2013 when Danny White was visiting San Francisco, and got contacted off of social media from randomly by a guy who in the UK who had seen us, at the London Marquee back in the late 80s. That guy was Matt Dennon. He contacted Danny White out of the blue on the day that Danny White happened to be playing with all of us for the first time since the 90s.
Wow.
And that guy said, hey, you guys are playing today. Let's get you out to the UK. There's fans here for you. There's people here who want to see you. And I guess that was true because 2014, that guy and his group of friends got together crowdfunding and put us on planes. The summer of 2014, we toured the UK for 2 weeks, and that is really what sparked, gave us the understanding that wow, there are people here, who still love this shit, and they're dying for more. So we, tiptoed back in with an EP and said, let's do a full length, and that's where we are today.
Yeah, I mean, the EP came out last year, Volition, and between that and the new record, the Dark Parade. I mean, was all that music written at the same time, and you just kind of split up between the EP and the album, or did any of these songs kind of go back to maybe The Next Room or even In This Life or the early days that never kind of got worked on?
Actually, there was one song that was from those earlier times. It wasn't from The Next Room. It was from the period before when Scott was still in the band. It's that song, Dented Lives.
Okay.
That song, The Dark Parade. That song, we always, had played because that was, the song that we had from the last time Scott was in the band. So we added that to the full length.
Oh, that's great.
But everything else was written, basically between the period of 2015 when we started working on it, the Volition EP and the Dark Parade record. Really, it was within a couple of years, because Danny was still having to live in New York, and we were trying to do Mordred with him over there, and to be honest, it didn't work. Everybody has to be in the room. We have to, be able to, do it that way. Even with today's technology, we're too, apparently Mordred's too old school or too deaf to, not have a loud room.
I think that's the best way to do it. I mean, being in a band myself, I couldn't see, being here, somebody being in California, somebody being in Europe, or recording parts and sending it over to one person to put together. I feel when you're in the room together, you can instantly change things around, feed off of each other's energy and vibe. I think the best music is created that way, unless you're a one-man band and you're kind of doing everything on your own anyway.
That's what I've learned anyway. I mean, I know some people do it, and they have great results, but that ain't how Mordred can do it.
How was the songwriting for this album? I mean, did everything kind of come back to you guys? Was it easy, or did you kind of have to, feel each other out again? I know you've been playing together for years, but I mean, in the songwriting department, was there a little bit of give and take on this album?
In terms of creative input?
Correct.
No, not really. I was just in it for the ride. I'm probably the most, apprehensive, thinking that, if we do it, is it, people are just going to be like, what is this rap thrash bullshit? What is that? That's what I was thinking at the beginning. Until the songs actually started coming together, and I was actually, writing, heavy bass parts again and enjoying it. And, it wasn't until I saw it happening that we could do it. And, that it was possible to do it, that would, we could move forward. And those guys, believed in it, specifically Danny and Scott were really into it.
with this new album out now, there's a whole new generation of kids that didn't grow up when we did in the 70s and 80s, that are going to hear this for the first time. And, it's incredible when you think about it, because I know when I was a kid, there was no way I was going to listen to my parents' music. I don't want anything to do with it. Every generation wants to find, their own thing. But the kids today, I think they really appreciate more what came out before them because they realize where it started from and how good it was.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Some kids, they like to go back and see where it came from, for sure. And that's true of, my friends' kids, the next generation of kids that I know who they like the origin story, as well as liking new stuff, too.
Absolutely. Hey, well, I'm not going to keep. I know you got all day of doing these things. I mean, the album's been out for about a month now. It's on M Theory. It's incredible. Things have been kind of crazy the last year with the COVID and stuff, but is there anything planned for the rest of this year?
We want to get out there. We're very eager to tour and play live. We don't have anything booked because I think, I know that there's been things are backed up because of COVID. There are already bands who are scheduled to be, touring who are, definitely ahead of us who are, unless some bands drop out, of a spot, we can't really, get on there that I know of. Plus, with COVID, it's things really haven't fully opened up, so it's hard to tell. But we definitely are trying to get out there. We're recording videos on YouTube and trying to let people see catch a glimpse of what Mordred looks like live. We hope to just get out there and show people in person.
I can't wait that it happens, and I'm hoping that you make your way back to New York again. I would love to see you guys live. It's been a long, long, long time, so hopefully that will happen this year next.
Yeah, I really hope to get.
Oh, man.